In the searing heat of a July morning in 2025, Sergeant Nathan Brooks stood like a statue at the tomb of the unknown soldier, his tomb guard uniform gleaming under the Arlington sun. 21 steps, pause, turn. 21 steps again. A ritual of honor, unbroken for nearly a century. Nathan's face was a mask of discipline, his eyes fixed forward, embodying the solemn duty of the tomb guard. But on this morning, a single act of arrogance would drag him from this hallowed post into a courtroom battle that would shake the foundations of justice. Jacob Reed, a tech mogul from Silicon Valley, strutted through the cemetery with a small entourage, his voice loud and brash. Dressed in a tailored suit, he waved his phone like a trophy, narrating his visit for his social media followers. "This is the tomb of the unknown soldier, folks," he said, smirking. "Let's get a selfie with one of these statue guys." Ignoring the signs that read, "Do not approach," Jacob crossed the velvet rope barrier, stepping into the restricted area just feet from Nathan. Tourists murmured in disapproval, but Jacob's grin only widened. "Come on, soldier boy, smile for the camera," he taunted, reaching out as if to pat Nathan's shoulder. Nathan's training kicked in. He stamped his foot, the sound sharp against the stone plaza. "Step back from the tomb," he commanded, his voice cutting through the morning air with authority. Jacob froze, startled, but instead of retreating, he leaned closer, laughing. "What are you going to do, buddy? You can't touch me." A security officer rushed forward, shouting, "Sir, step back now." But Jacob was too close. Following protocol, Nathan executed a precise defensive maneuver, using his rifle to gently push Jacob's arm away, creating distance without force. Jacob stumbled back, more from surprise than impact, and fell dramatically to the ground, clutching his wrist. "He hit me," Jacob yelled, his voice theatrical. "That guard assaulted me." The crowd buzzed. Phones were out recording. Jacob's entourage rushed to his side as he writhed, exaggerating his pain. "I'm hurt bad," he groaned, holding up his wrist for the cameras. "This isn't over. I know people. That guard's going to pay." A retired veteran in the crowd, Tom Wheeler, shook his head. "That was textbook protocol," he muttered. To a nearby tourist, "The guy crossed the line." But Jacob was already on his phone calling his lawyer, Margaret Voss, a powerhouse attorney known for winning big civil suits in D.C. "Get me a case," he hissed. "I want $5 million, and I want that guard humiliated." Days later, in the marble halls of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, Nathan Brooks stood alone. At the defendant's table, his uniform was immaculate, his kepi tucked under his arm, but his heart pounded. He declined a lawyer, trusting the truth to defend him. The courtroom was packed, reporters, veterans, curious locals, all drawn by the spectacle of a tomb guard on trial. Judge Edward Harper, a 60-year-old veteran of the bench, entered with the sweep of his black robe. His stern face and silver hair commanded respect, but his eyes held a flicker of impatience. "Court is now in session," he announced. "The case of Reed versus Brooks. Sergeant Brooks, you stand accused of assault causing severe bodily injury. How do you plead?" "Not guilty, Your Honor," Nathan replied, his voice steady but resonant, carrying the weight of his military training. Harper raised an eyebrow. "You understand the seriousness of these charges, Sergeant. Assaulting a civilian while on duty at a national monument is a grave offense, and you've chosen to represent yourself." "I have, Your Honor," Nathan said firmly. "I trust the truth will speak for itself." Harper's lips tightened. "Very well. Let the record show the defendant has declined counsel despite the court's advisement. Ms. Voss, proceed with the plaintiff's case." Margaret Voss rose from the plaintiff's table. Her tailored suit and confident stride exuded authority. "Thank you, Your Honor," she said, her voice smooth as silk. The plaintiff, Mr. Jacob Reed, was viciously attacked by Sergeant Brooks while visiting the tomb of the unknown soldier. This unprovoked assault left Mr. Reed with a fractured wrist, requiring extensive medical treatment and causing significant emotional and professional harm. "We seek $5 million in damages for pain, suffering, and loss of reputation," the gallery murmured. Nathan stood rigid, his face betraying nothing. Voss called Jacob to the stand. He walked with a slight limp, his wrist in a brace, his expression of one of practiced victimhood. "Mr. Reed," Voss began, "please tell the court what happened that day at Arlington." Jacob adjusted his tie, glancing at the jury box for sympathy. "I was just a tourist, enjoying a visit to one of our nation's treasures. I wanted a photo near the tomb. Nothing wrong with that. I stayed respectful, kept my distance, but out of nowhere, this guard, Sergeant Brooks, yelled at me and slammed his rifle into my wrist. I was in agony. I've needed medical care ever since, and my business has suffered because I can't use my hand properly." Voss held up a medical report. "Your Honor, I submit Exhibit B, a report from Dr. Alan Mercer confirming Mr. Reed's fractured wrist and ongoing treatment." Harper nodded. "Admitted into evidence. Continue, Ms. Voss." "Did you provoke Sergeant Brooks in any way?" Voss asked. "Absolutely not," he said, his hand on his chest. "I know the rules. I visited Arlington before. I was shocked by his aggression." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. Harper turned to him. "Sergeant Brooks, you may cross-examine the witness." Nathan stepped forward, his boots echoing on the hardwood floor. "Mr. Reed," he began, his voice calm but piercing, "you claim you maintain a respectful distance, yet the tomb's security logs, which I've subpoenaed, show you crossed a clearly marked barrier. Is that correct?" Jacob shifted uncomfortably. I don't recall crossing any barrier. It was crowded. Maybe I got pushed." "And you claim my action caused a fracture," Nathan continued. "Yet video footage from Arlington security camera shows you flexing your wrist minutes after the incident with no sign of pain. Would you like me to play that footage for the court?" Voss jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. The defense didn't disclose this footage during discovery." Nathan produced the document. "With respect, Ms. Voss, I submitted an evidence list to your office 5 days ago, including the footage. Here's the signed receipt." He handed it to the court clerk. Harper's face reddened slightly. "Overruled. The footage is admissible. Proceed, Sergeant." Nathan inserted a flash drive into the courtroom's evidence system. The screen flickered to life, showing Jacob crossing the velvet rope barrier, ignoring warnings from a security officer and reaching toward Nathan. The crowd gasped as the footage showed Nathan's control maneuver, pushing Jacob's arm away with minimal force. Jacob stumbled, then stood laughing with his friends and flexing his wrist as if unharmed. The gallery buzzed. With shock, Harper banged his gavel. "Order." "Sergeant, do you have further questions?" "Yes, Your Honor," Nathan said. "Mr. Reed, you mentioned a doctor, Alan Mercer. I contacted Walter Reed Medical Center, where you claim he practices. They have no record of him. Can you explain that?" Jacob's face paled. I must have gotten the name wrong. My lawyer handled the details." Voss stood again. "Objection, Your Honor. The medical report's authenticity has been established." Nathan held up another document. "Not quite, Your Honor. The